Well, I just don't know what's wrong with me this morning. I'm used to seeing colors and sights and hearing sounds and seeing shapes, but it's all different today. There's nothing but this dull sameness. It's sort of gray. There's just no change. It's almost like a dream, but I don't seem inclined to wake up. Maybe it is a dream. I was working late. I always work late. I like to work late because when you leave, there's plenty of work to do. When you leave, there's not so much traffic and you can just sort of zoom along. And then something happened. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe something broke on the car or somebody hit me. But all of a sudden I was turning and twisting and flying, and then there was nothing. Or, well, not really nothing. There was this. It isn't nothing, but it's not like anything I've ever experienced before. You know how dreams can just seem so vivid that it's like real life? Yeah, it's really vivid, but I've never known a life like this. I hope I wake up soon. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I consider myself to be successful. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not like Mark Zuckerberg or I'm not like Warren Buffett. I'm not going to provide internet service to everybody in the whole world. Far from that, not at all. But I do have a nice house, and it's in the best part of town. And every 3 years I get a new car to drive, and I replace my wife's about that same time. 2 kids who are almost college age. Sure glad I've been saving up for that. And then we had a surprise. He's in 2nd grade, and he just knocks me out. We're a good family. I buy tickets, season tickets to all the home games at the U, and we go there. We have a lot of fun together. Those kids of mine, they're going to grow up and they're going to be good citizens. They're going to be great adults. At work, I'm a group manager. And I get along well with my bosses, and I get along well with the guys who report to me. When the cards come around for United Way pledges, I always give the recommended amount. At my salary level, it's 2%, a couple $1,000 a year. I'm not a bad guy. In fact, if you took all the things about me and stacked them up, you'd probably say, he's a pretty good guy. And yet, here I am today. I don't know how long I've been here. Minutes, hours, days. It's always the same. There's no way to tell time. One of my junior guys at work, his name was Roger. I had to call him on the carpet. It seemed like things were just sort of going wrong for him. He'd made a few mistakes, and people were asking why. There were even some folks who said, this guy ought to be fired. But he was a good worker. So I called him in and we discussed what had been going on. And we made a plan to get things worked out and smoothed over. And then the strangest thing happened. It was almost like a scene from that old TV show, This Is the Life. Some of you might remember that. We were sort of finishing up, and he said to me, I really appreciate you working with me and helping me plan to get things so that they're working smoothly again. But I got to tell you that even if the worst thing happens, if I get fired, it'll still work out for me because I know God cares for me. And He doesn't promise that everything's going to go smooth for me, but he did send his son to cover up all my weak spots and to make good all the places where I've gone wrong and all the wrong turns I made. So, whatever happens, even if I get fired, it'll be okay. I just trust my God. He'll take care of me. The strangest thing came to me. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just blurted out, well, I'm glad that you're not worried. You know, I'm not a religious man. I don't go to church. And then I thought, oh, I've really put my foot in it this time. Now he's probably going to give me some kind of religious lecture. I never even knew that he was a Bible reader. And sure enough, it started off sort of like I thought it would. He said, 5 years ago, I was just about the same guy you were. I was working out in my yard, and I finished up. I noticed my neighbor Bruce, he finished up about the same time. So we got together on the patio and shared a beer, and I don't know how we got onto this topic, but we sort of talked about the meaning of life. I don't think I'd thought much about that since I was in middle school. Anyway, we talked a little bit, and then he said, why don't you just come to church with me tomorrow? I think you'll find some answers to that. And I can't even tell you why I said I'd go. Maybe it's because Christmas was coming up and I felt sort of guilty about skipping so much. But I went with him. And you know what? The people were pretty nice there. And the things I heard there, they actually made sense to me. Made sense to me in a way they never had before. Well, things changed. Well, we said a few more things, and then my employee left, and that was the end of it. He never said another word about God to me. A year or so later, he got cancer, and he died. I went to his funeral. I remember one of the things the pastor read there. I may not have this exact. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, yet he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Never die. I felt sorry for the widow. I figured she'd have a hard time. And yes, at the funeral, she was crying. But I talked to her after that, and she wasn't like what I expected. It seemed like even underneath all the grief and pain she was suffering, she had some hope. And I think even buried way down, even a little bit of joy. I knew that things were not going to go well for her. What did she have to look forward to? Loneliness. Her standard of living was going to drop. She'd never make the same kind of income that the two of them had made together. And yet, she acted like it wasn't the end of everything, like she'd just go on. You know, now that I think about it, I think some people maybe came to see me and tried to lay that whole religion bundle on me. I was outside and I was clipping the hedge, and I saw a little group of people working the neighborhood, 2 or 3 of them, going up to houses and knocking on the door. You know how many people answer the door when cold callers come on a Saturday? Hardly any. I turned my clippers off and went back inside, And sure enough, it wasn't very long, and my doorbell rang, and here they were. And I thought to myself, I bet you they're just religious kooks. I'll get rid of them quick. And the first guy said to me, we'd like to come in and talk to you. And I said, sorry, I don't have time. And all I remember them saying was, well, may the peace of Jesus be with you, and may he fill your heart and bring you good things. And they handed me a couple pamphlets, which went right to the trash, and they left. Funny the way that works out. What if this today isn't a dream? What if instead it's something like a vision of how things could be? I just don't know what to make of it. It's all the same. I'm tired of it. I wish it was different. I wish I had some kind of connection outside of myself. When I was a kid, my folks took me to church, and they dropped me off for Sunday school, and sometimes it was fun. We did some neat crafts and built some stuff, and I don't know where all that stuff went. Mostly, oftentimes, what it was sort of boring. Seemed like you heard the same stories every year or so. I remember some of them, stories about brave heroes and miracles, and they were interesting, but they were just stories, weren't they? That's what I thought they were. I remember one of them. There was this really rich guy. He had everything you could want. He didn't seem like a bad guy. Didn't hear anything bad about him. And then there was also this really poor guy. He had to make his living by begging. He was sickly. He was homeless. The clothes he wore weren't much better than rags. And the story really didn't tell much about his character at all. I don't know if he was a particularly good guy or a bad guy. Both of them died. And the rich man went to hell. And the poor guy went to heaven. And it was so strange because it was like their whole situations just flipped. They were totally different. When the rich man had been alive, he had servants clustered around him, giving him everything. They were all gone. He had rich variety of experiences, good food, always dressed in fancy clothes. No, that was all gone. For him, every minute was just the same. And every minute he was in torment. And the poor guy, he was okay. He was living in happiness. And every minute was like a celebration. And he was comforted. Strange the way that worked. After I graduated from the U, religion just sort of faded totally out of my life. Hadn't been there much anyway, but it just faded totally out. Got married. My wife and I, for a while, we'd go to church off and on. But, you know, it seemed like I got more renewing when I went to the cabin and took my boat out on the lake. And all that religion stuff just didn't seem worth the effort. It didn't seem worth the time. Just sort of faded away. What's that over there? It's like a really bright light over there. Sort of like a scene you'd see on a sunny beach. That looks just like the guy who used to work for me. He's having a ball, it looks like. He's yucking it up. You know, if I could just get over to him, I bet you he could tell me what's going on now. I bet you he could make things clear to me. That's funny. It's like I'm stuck here. I can't even get to him. If you took all the things that he did in his life and the things I did in my life, they don't seem like they're that much different. I know he did some bad things. They weren't necessarily better than some of the bad things I did. And yet, he's over there, and I'm here, and it's getting more miserable every second I'm here. What's the difference? If I could just remember some of those old Bible verses that I learned, maybe I could figure it out on my own. Let's see. A man is justified by faith apart from the works of the law. That wasn't in the miracle stories. What is that trying to tell me? Does it mean that the things that he did that were good have nothing to do with where he is? And the things that I did that were good don't do anything to get me out of here? Is that what that means? There's got to be more. His faith is accounted to him as righteousness. Is it not so much a matter of the things that he's done as it is a matter of where he puts his trust? Is that the difference? Wait a minute. Maybe this is a warning. A warning. God's sending me a warning. He says, you've got to change, and you've got to change now. When I get out of here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to church. I'm going to listen to some stuff. And maybe I'll even believe it this time. Maybe I'll even get to know Jesus this time. If I could just do that, but I don't seem inclined to wake up from this. It doesn't seem to be solid. I vaguely remember some voices. What about the driver? Nothing we can do about that. It was instantaneous. He's gone. No. Does that mean this is where I am forever? Why can't you just send me back and give me a do-over? Or, no, you can't do that. Well, could you send Roger back at least to talk to my family? I don't want them to end up here where I am. This is more than a man can stand. And to think of having to stand it forever. Can't somebody just go back and tell them? John chapter 12. If anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not receive my words has a judge. The words that I have spoken will judge him on the last day. Who's going to talk to my family? May the peace of God, which passes all our understanding, wash over you and keep you strong in Christ Jesus until that day when you meet him in the place he's prepared for you. Amen.